Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's a CHGO Cubs podcast. It is Monday morning, December 11th, and we're still waiting on the first big move for the Cubs outside of hiring Craig Counsell. Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Cody Delmendo with the day off. He'll be back tomorrow, we believe. Listen, we had the Ohtani hangover over the weekend. The news came out. We did the emergency podcast. We were 800 strong in the live chat, the emergency podcast, for like an hour, and we finally had to shut it off because I couldn't talk about it anymore. It was just too much. There were a lot.
Thank us for that.
A lot of people. I think we averaged like 800 people live the whole time. I don't know what kind of downloads we've had, but we appreciate everybody that joins in the live chat. Best way to enjoy the experience is to subscribe to that CHGO Sports YouTube page so you don't miss any shows. You get all the reminders. Hit the thumbs up, the like buttons, all those things, 5-star reviews. And then if you're listening to us normally in podcast form, we appreciate that too. Good reviews on Spotify or wherever you might be getting your podcast feed from. So today,
and if you're hearing screaming, that's not that is coming from the other studio.
Yeah, we're in Studio B today because Bears is still going on.
Bears there. It's getting heated over there.
After a win, they've gone an hour and 22 minutes and forced us into the small studio.
It's getting heated. Hogs throwing varsity coolers at
Carm's saying crazy stuff. Herb and Hogue are throwing stuff at them. Anyways,
all right.
We got our own crazy stuff to say. So the Ohtani thing happened. If you're living under a rock, 10 years, $700 million. Dodgers made it happen. Yeah. Deferring a bunch of the money. We know all that stuff. Great. He's going to the Dodgers. It's over with. Yep. I had a little time to think about my takes that I had when it happened. You know, I said right away, $700 million. I'm glad the Cubs didn't do it. Okay. So, and then I thought, am I wrong about that? Should I change? Should I flip? Should I pull a Kaplan? Should I pull my buddy Cap? Should I pull a Cap and do a little flipperoo? He's going to hate that if he listens to this, but I don't think he does. So I thought, should I change my mind, right? Mm-hmm. So I put out a poll on Twitter, and I said, are you glad? Wish the Cubs had done it for 700 plus, or glad they didn't do it at 700 plus? 3,171 votes on the weekend, 24-hour period. What do you think the percentages were? Don't look. Don't look at the screen. Don't look at your computer.
I'm not. I'm looking for a
what percent
tweet, but
percentage people. What percentage of Cubs fans that were following me on Twitter were yes. glad the Cubs didn't do it for yeah. And what was the percentage for ones that are like, I wish they did?
What, like 60%, something like that? 60-40?
73% of Cubs fans out of 3,171 votes glad they did not spend $700+ million. And Gary's saying a Cap didn't want Ohtani at 700. Now that was my take originally too, and I'm going to tell you why though, because obviously the third choice for that poll would have been, can't it be both? Can't you be disappointed they didn't and still, of course there can be some mixture, but I was trying to divide the people and see how it would go down.
The king of division.
Right. I'm a divider. I'm not a uniter. Cody is, he can't stay away. So he's saying, I stand with Omar until the Cubs do something to prove me wrong.
Well, the way I look at it, and yeah, like you said, you can absolutely be disappointed that they didn't get him. I don't know. I guess I just look at it from like, and I think like, the whole, it's not our money, it's their money. Why should you, why are you happy that someone else didn't spend their money on getting Ohtani? And listen, the way I look at it is like, it goes all the way to the top, right? And I'm not saying Tom Ricketts would not have allowed Jed Hoyer to spend that money or to give that contract. But I think we look at it, and it's like what I said on Saturday, is like, we have no idea if Shohei Ohtani would even have given that offer to the Cubs, like accepted that offer from the Cubs, or even worked with them on the contract.
It would have been over $700 million.
I would think so. Yeah. So I again, I'm not saying Ricketts would not have let it happen, but it's also, Jed Hoyer would love to spend all of Tom Ricketts' money. You'd have to assume that, like, as a president of baseball operations, whose job it is to win games, I'm sure he would love to spend as much money as Tom Ricketts has, like every offseason. It's just not realistic. That's not how they operate. And again, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with it. It's just like knowing how this front office operates, that's just not a realistic thing to expect them to just spend big money. I get, like you can be very disappointed in that, and I wouldn't like blame you, right? Like if you didn't like that, I would not blame you for being mad about that. But it's a lot of money. It is a lot of money, and I'm like trying to find we don't know the exact breakdown of it yet, but I'm like seeing different things out there about what it could look like as far as the luxury tax hit and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know how much money on AAV and per year the Cubs are saving, but it was going to be a lot of money. And I don't know, I'm just kind of talking in circles right now, but I get the disappointment, and I get the people being angry that it seems like the Cubs keep coming up short. Like I get it, and I don't blame people for feeling that way. I don't know.
For the biggest names, they have come up short, right? Like other than we think they got one of the best managers, and they've outspent everybody when it comes to manager for $8 million for Counsell. But yeah, they have had chances to go and acquire, whether it's Bryce Harper or Carlos Correa or Shohei Ohtani. They have missed on some of the big guys that we think they were actually maybe making offers to, or at least in on. Now, I've seen everything in the detailing afterwards saying the Cubs weren't even in the top 3 in this. Here's why I agree with you that 700, if it had to be 700 for plus for the Cubs, I'm okay that they didn't do it. Not because I don't think Ohtani is worth $700 million. I do. I think he's worth 700. Not because I don't think the Cubs have $700 million. Yeah. They do. Well, they can afford it. They could have done it. He's the best player in baseball, but you have to face reality. Who are the Cubs? Who have they shown you that they are? They've shown you that if they were to go crazy and do something like $700 million, which they've never even come close to that. So I don't know what their offer was, but it wasn't $700 million, and they've never been anywhere near it. And he may be the most unique player ever, but I think the odds are in the favor of if they had offered $750 and Ohtani was like, I'll take it. The odds are that they would have been a very Ohtani heavy team, and we saw how the Hayward contract hampered them at like a fraction of that price after they won the World Series with them. So what makes us think that they wouldn't do the same thing, only more with Ohtani? If, heaven forbid, at $750 million, he can't pitch again, or the bat doesn't play 5 years from now. Yeah. I'm not saying they wouldn't have loved the deal for 5 years. I think they would have. But there's also a chance that they would have given us some really ugly down years afterwards if it didn't work out. Now that I know what somebody's going to say in the chat already. They're going to say, we just went through that and we didn't have Ohtani, so why not go through it with Ohtani? I just think the Cubs likely would have ventured on we need to start saving money and cutting corners everywhere because we just gave a guy $700 million.
Yeah, and who knows how much he allows to be deferred in a contract with the Cubs.
That's right. He might not have done it with the Cubs.
Who knows? So it could really, had he signed with the Cubs, it could really, bog down their the overall money committed, like salary tax purposes.
A lot of holes still on the team.
Or luxury tax purposes, I mean. So I don't know. I see both sides. I understand disappointment, and I think a lot of that, again, just comes from the general feeling that the Cubs aren't getting the best players. Like the Dansby Swanson one, I think it worked out, and like a year later, we're sitting here like that was a great deal. But at the time, it was like, oh, they got the 4th best shortstop in that shortstop class. Instead of getting Correa or Turner or Bogarts, they got Dansby Swanson. So at the time, I get it. It doesn't feel like they're in general, the best free agents. But Ohtani is like a completely different beast, too.
I know he is, but it's just, he's also coming off 2 Tommy Johns, and he's going to be heading into his 30s. Yeah. So I'm surprised. The polls surprised me. I didn't think 73% of Cubs fans would say afterwards, he went to the Dodgers, $700 million. Why not us? Why didn't we spend $750? Instead, 73% said, man, I'm glad they didn't go any higher than that.
That's a surprise. I thought it'd be more even than anything.
I thought it'd at least be 50-50 of irate Cubs fans. How did we get outbid? We have the money. You're just rolling in wheelbarrows of cash. And the other side of like, well, that's, it's a lot of money and it could hamstring the team moving forward, even though maybe it shouldn't. But anyways.
No, I see both sides for sure. Like I understand the anger or disappointment. I also understand when people think like, I wouldn't have given him that much money. Like when people are saying that, okay, I get that too.
Yeah. Jay Andrews wants us to start calling this Reality Monday.
What was it? Did we used to call it like Magic Monday?
We used to call it Magic Wand Monday.
There you
go. Wild Thought Wednesday still could be coming up. Chris is asking where Cody just has a day off. He took another vacation day to recover from his Tennessee vacation.
Yeah. He had a rough
Rocky
Saturday.
Top. He went Rocky Top and Rocky Weekend.
He had a rough Saturday for sure.
He did, definitely. I am disappointed that he went to the Dodgers, first of all.
Yeah.
And I'm even more disappointed that he's helping him out financially with this deferred money. Yes. And I'm super disappointed to hear and know that they still may be swooping in on the Glasnow deal. So the question of today now is, and yes, it's not that are we live, Barb? Yes, we are live at 1:20 on Monday. The question is, how do you cure the Ohtani hangover? If you as a fan or if you, the Cubs, were all in and you were one of those teams waiting to see what Ohtani was going to do, we were all on hold. We were in that holding pattern over Lake Michigan, just circling over the lake like you're in an airplane, waiting to land. Okay, Ohtani landed, and he landed with the Dodgers, and you got a little bit of a headache this morning. How do you go about fixing it? Well, one of the options, as John Morosi told us, he said maybe the most likely is Glasnow. Well, now Glasnow is also getting a lot of attention from the Dodgers, and Morosi said this morning, Giants are heavy after Glasnow. Dodgers are going heavy after Glasnow. So now this is the fear of not being able to convince your team to move forward and convince the other free agents to move forward while Ohtani was sitting there. Because if at some point you knew you were fourth or fifth in the Ohtani race, the nice plan would have been able to shift and be like, bang, let's go get this guy.
Yeah.
But those free agents don't want to because they know now that this is going to happen. Yeah. The Glasnow trade market, for instance, is gone up. Teams want him. Would you be just crushed? Sarah, would you be crushed if Glasnow went to the Dodgers? I couldn't take it because they say they're in on Yamamoto,
I just want
too.
someone.
They're in on Dylan Cease, apparently.
I just want somebody. I feel like they haven't done
and not the Dodgers
anything.
Yeah. Could we just not have the Dodgers piling? I know it's better than the Cardinals piling all these players on, but the Dodgers have Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani,
Tyler Glasnow.
Maybe there'll be a flop.
Maybe Glasnow.
Isn't Bueller back this year? Walker Bueller? He may be.
Bueller be back.
I don't know if I'm correct about that.
I think that is right.
No,
they got some players.
Yeah, and it's like what we talked about on Saturday. It's like the the Dodgers have been preparing for this offseason for a couple of years now. If you look back at some of the things they've done, the moves they've made, the contracts they've given out, like they have been preparing to spend a lot of money this offseason. Obviously, they've spent a lot on Shohei Ohtani now. Like that is a lot of money they just spent on him. But they are preparing for an offseason where they're going and going all in. And when it's a team like the Dodgers, who we know is arguably the best run organization in baseball. Maybe Atlanta, kind of is up there with them. But like I look at the Dodgers and like that is the model franchise for just having everything going right at the same time. Like you're making the playoffs, whatever it is, 10, 11 years in a row. You have all these prospects in the top 100. Your farm system and development's great. You're giving out good contracts, like contracts that work out for the most part. Like
Astros, Dodgers,
those
teams.
That's what those guys are doing. So I mean, I'm not surprised that the Dodgers are like looking like a world beater at this point, even like without even some of these other guys, and with still the potential to go get more. That's the model that, and we've talked about it before. Like the Cubs should strive to get to that Dodgers Atlanta level as an organization overall. Will they ever get there? Remains to be seen. But that is the goal: is to have a well-oiled machine up and down the entire organization, from ownership to president of baseball operations to GM, all the way down to like the bottom low A prospects, right? Like have everything going in the right direction at the same time and just be a well-oiled machine. That's what you want the Cubs to be, and the Dodgers. So yeah, I can from a Cubs fans, I can understand like looking at it and saying like, damn, how are the Dodgers doing this? How are they getting even better and better and better? But it's also like, this is the model that the Cubs should be trying to follow, right? Like the Dodgers are doing this and it sucks for Cubs fans. I absolutely. But you also look at it as like, that's what, if I'm a Cubs fan, I'm sitting there like, this is what I want the Cubs to be, is this team that just continues to reload every single offseason, has all the money they have, or spends all the money they need to, has a lot of it left over, and just, again, overall, from top to bottom, so well-oiled, well-run organization.
And they're able to walk away from players that you just don't. It's like the Patriots in football, right? Mm-hmm. Like they always held on to Tom Brady, but they were able to walk away from this guy or that guy, and and it's like they let Bellinger go when he was struggling. Who's the shortstop they let go, but they cycle through guys, and it seems like it doesn't matter because Freddie Freeman comes in, and then you go and all of a sudden you've got another star player coming in. Now you got Ohtani cycling in. So what about let's focus on the pitching staff, right? Because we know they've got to add some arms. Stroman's not coming back. You have to replace at least Stroman's innings, even though he was inconsistent. So the one name has been Glasnow, 1 year. It also makes sense for the Dodgers because Ohtani's not going to pitch this year, so they could have him for 1 year and then he hits free agency. But what about Jordan Montgomery, who's reportedly talking to the Red Sox and Yankees, maybe looking at a 5-year deal? Who would Jordan Montgomery be? He doesn't have the hit. Yeah. He doesn't have the swing and miss that Glasnow has. But he's a pretty good pitcher, and he was pretty good in the postseason too.
Yeah, and this is something we talked about too when I think we talked about it when the Soto thing happened last week. It's just like that was a big bet that went off the board. Obviously now Shohei's off the board. There's still ways to improve this team this offseason. It's going to be tough to get to World Series aspirations or World Series expectations, but I always thought that was a long shot anyway to really improve the team that much in one offseason. And again, that's another thing that I'm sure fans don't want to hear, and I don't blame them for not wanting to sit through another year where will they or won't they make the playoff kind of thing. Like, fans should expect the Cubs to have World Series expectations every year. Like, I get that. So I understand the disappointment in that. But yeah, just going back, like there are ways to improve this ball club this offseason. If you're looking at the pitching side, like you've mentioned, Montgomery and those guys, Blake Snell's out there. And then the trade market, Glasnow. I don't know if I see the Cubs. Bieber's there, and Bieber could be part of a bigger package with the Guardians. And I don't know if Dylan Cease or Corbin Burns are actually realistic for the Cubs, but like those are obviously two names on the market or potentially on the market. There are ways to, at least the rotation and pitching staff wise, there are ways to, and we haven't even talked about like Imanaga, who's just kind of fallen off the radar. We haven't really heard anything about him.
Well, it was another name that was mentioned, like right along with Ohtani. Yeah. Like they're also interested in him. So,
like Yamamoto's out there, and I know he is one of the best or most sought after free agent starting pitchers for sure. I think he may be the most sought after free agent starting pitcher right now. So I don't know what the Cubs shots are getting him are, but like my overall point is there are ways to make this a better ball club, be a better team in 2024 than they were in 2023, and especially if we're talking about the rotation itself. Will they have World Series expectations? I find that even harder to believe now than I did a week ago. But, we saw it with the Diamondbacks, right? Like Diamondbacks weren't World Series expectations going into this past season, and they made the run.
Dodgers weren't in the World Series.
Right there, right? So I don't know. Yes, a Cubs fan wants the Cubs to get all the best players, right? Again, I've said it. The front office would love to get all the best players if they had the budget for it. They don't, but there are still ways to get good impact talent on this team and improve the ball club from what it was last year. It's not going to be easy, but they stayed under the luxury tax for a reason this last year.
Yeah. To
be able to go out and spend some money and potentially go over the luxury tax if they see fit. We'll see how that turns out, but it's gonna be hard, right? It's gonna be hard to it would be hard to get this team to World Series caliber contender in one offseason. I expect it to maybe go on until next winter, but they can definitely improve the team in different ways this year than what it was last year.
World Series contender on paper, right? Like you said, the Diamondbacks have shown us that if you get close or you get in, you just never know. But they need to at least put themselves into favored to get into the postseason. Right? Last year, I don't think they were a team you looked at and said, okay, I would star this team as, let's pencil them in as a postseason team. If they don't have a ton of injuries, let's mark them down as a postseason team. Never thought that. I don't think too many people nationally thought that about the Cubs. Mm-hmm. This offseason, to me, should be about making sure that when all the national people are putting together their list of postseason teams, like this team's a lock, this team's going to get in, the Cubs need to be in that mix.
Yeah.
They need to be in that mix. So whether that means spending, obviously it's not going to be $700 million. It's probably not going to be $500 million. Start going lower than that, but let's still make it a high number. And you may have to part with a few of those prospects because a lot of the ways we're starting to talk about for improving the team, some of them are, I see the scenario where they're going to trade a few prospects becoming more and more likely.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Not that it wasn't ever, a long shot. I don't think it was ever a long shot that they were going to do it, but I think there are some players that some of the prospects you like probably won't be part of the team moving into spring training, but we'll see. We are going to talk a little Yamamoto for some interesting reasons coming up, but I want to tell you about Empire Today. You shop at home convenience, the right products for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire Today is the best place to get new flooring. And listen, they've got a lot of different things that make them great. One of them is the virtual floor designer, great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. You just snap a picture with your phone, and instantly you can see how new floors will look in your room. You can go to the big box store and look for your flooring, whether it's that premium vinyl flooring, or maybe you're looking for laminate flooring, maybe you're looking for hardwood floors, maybe you're looking for new carpet for the living room. Listen, they've got it all. You can go to the big box store, but the person that's going to be helping you, you can't guarantee they know what they're talking about. That's just a fact. Like Empire, all they do is flooring, and they take all of the bad samples that are out there on the market. It's like the Cubs going through free agency right now, right? Empire goes through their free agent carpets, and they go, all right, this is who's on the market. Well, we know these 10 are busts, and they take them off the table so you can't make a horrible decision, and they leave you only with the good players to choose from. Now, that's the kind of deal I like. I love the virtual design thing. So go ahead and schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details. $350 off.
Yeah.
Even the Dodgers didn't get that.
Yeah, and after you do all that, you also need to go check out Midtown Athletic Club. Midtown, one of the best gyms I've ever been to. It's so nice. We went a couple weeks ago. We actually... on Instagram,
I saw it today.
A video, like some of our content that we filmed over there.
Yeah,
great video, but it also was a good reminder of how.
Yeah. Can I get an invite to round 2?
Yeah,
because I saw the pictures, and I once belonged to a very nice gym in Chicago. Doesn't look that nice.
No,
doesn't look that nice.
Doesn't.
And I guarantee you, it's more expensive than that too.
Yeah, and actually, it's not even just Chicago because Midtown's got 4 Chicagoland locations.
Hook me up in Palatine. Let's do a little tennis there, Carm.
Palatine in the northwest suburbs, Bannockburn in the north shore, Willowbrook in the southwest suburbs, and Midtown Athletic Club and Hotel in the middle of Bucktown and Lincoln Park. And actually, Midtown Palatine has launched a multi-million-dollar transformation of the club, which will be complete in early 2024. Listeners can lock in favorable rates if they join before the end of the year. There's something at the clubs for everyone, whether you're single without kids like me, you got a family and kids like Luke. If you're looking to make lifestyle changes or you're looking for holistic wellness, they got something at the club for everyone. Midtown Chicago is the nicest fitness club I've ever been to. It's got some cool features at the club. Let me tell you about some of them. Super luxe locker rooms with wet and dry saunas and premium amenities. Amazing outdoor and indoor pools and hot tubs. A collection of boutique fitness studios with more than 100 classes per week included in the membership. And they're not just gym quality. The spaces are boutique quality. They also got the best tennis courts and programming in the sport. Midtown has indoor and outdoor tennis, pickleball, and paddle tennis courts. USTA professional quality all the way. So head over to midtown.com/CHGO to find out more and to tour the Midtown Athletic Club nearest you.
Midwest Rippin in the live chat is correct, says Cubs overachieved last year, didn't make the playoffs, and so far got worse in the offseason. I think you're right about at least part of that. I think they have gotten worse in the offseason, but they don't play any games right now, so it doesn't matter. I don't know if they overachieved last year. Some players certainly exceeded expectations. My expectation for that team was that they should have gotten into the postseason. They fell short of that. So, but I mean, on paper, they don't have Bellinger, they don't have Stroman, and some other pieces. So, yeah, obviously, a lot of teams currently right now, with the offseason not finished, are not as good as they were last year. Now, the Dodgers, you look at them and probably say, okay, the Dodgers are probably better than they were last year. But we'll see. One thing I know, and you can be mad at them. It's okay to be mad at the Cubs that they haven't done anything big yet. So we'll talk. I'll give you an either or would you rather, if you will, in a minute. I am curious about the whole John Morosi thing, who was nice enough to be on our show from Nashville last week. And, you know, he right as we get home, he starts tweeting about the Ohtani stuff. Mm-hmm. And he tweeted out Ohtani hasn't made a decision, because there was one person putting out he's picked the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Somebody tweeted out he's picked the Blue Jays. I believe it was a Dodgers reporter.
Someone from LA, I think.
Yeah, a Dodgers reporter tweeted out he picked the Blue Jays. Then Morosi tweeted out he hasn't signed a contract. He's flying to Toronto today. Okay, people were all over Morosi. Then he finally went out. And
then it ended up being the Robert from Shark Tank.
Right. It was a different private airplane, and some of the other reporters, after about an hour or so, were like, "Nope, he's in LA, he's in Southern California." And then Morosi went and posted, today I posted reporting that included inaccurate information that Ohtani was traveling to Toronto. I regret the mistake. Apologize to baseball fans everywhere. Deeply sorry for letting you down. Now, this is why I'm going to tell you to make sure you're still following John Morosi. Yeah. And it's not because he came on our show, okay? It's because he was wrong about something, and he didn't hide behind it. There are so many people in our industry right now and that will just spitball information at the walls and act as if it's fact, and then run the other direction when it doesn't happen, or just turn the shoulder. Listen, he thought he was on the plane. He got information from somebody that was wrong. When he found out what he had put out there was wrong, he pinned it on his Twitter. He didn't just tweet it. He pinned it to the top of his Twitter, so it's there for a long time. And then he came on MLB Network today, and he was talking about Yamamoto, and he said, Yamamoto is meeting with the Yankees today. I can't say what form of transportation he's taking, because maybe that's not my strength. He joked about it. He admitted he was wrong. Guys, if you haven't made a mistake at your job, do you know how many things he has to put out there, how much misinformation is out there, and how much stuff he has to weed through? It's why when I see a tweet, I almost always wait to see the second tweet or confirm it myself or whatever it might be. It's a dangerous business. Most people forget about it the next day. For whatever reason, he's getting hammered by people, and I just don't understand it. He's probably, I would say, Passan and Morosi are the two guys I trust more than anybody in almost any sport. In any sport. Adam Schefter would be the third. Those three guys are the three that I trust. And it doesn't mean they've never been wrong.
Yeah, I think you throw Rosenthal in there too.
Rosenthal too. But he was wrong last week. I don't remember what it was, but it was something smaller. And he's like, oh, my bad.
Yeah, he also, I think
because a lot of stuff is secondhand information, firsthand information coming from secondhand information. Yeah. It's not all fact unless you get it from the player's mouth.
No, I listen, Morosi, in a way, I think he maybe deserved the criticism when it first happened, just because he was wrong, right?
Sure.
He was wrong.
If you're in Toronto, I can see people being mad at Jon Morosi for like 24 hours.
But to go out and put out there like, I had wrong information, I apologize, I'm sorry to the baseball world. I don't see why that's not enough. I don't see why, because like you said, there are other reporters that go out and put information, or even not even just reporters, just whoever it is, put out information, spread it wide, and then they're wrong and don't, nothing comes from it, right? And there's never any, not a whole lot of retraction or whatever. Yeah. It's just like, it's kind of just let it go.
You're selling toilets at Home Depot and you say to somebody, oh, that comes in 2 sizes. And then the person leaves and you go up and you look at the sign and go, oops, they no longer manufacture that. I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
Well, how about
it's a little less high profile.
I think Morosi being upfront, apologizing. I don't know how much longer after the original tweet was that he came out with the apology, but to go out, put it out there like, I was wrong. I reported bad information, whatever it was. To me, that should be enough. That should be enough to be like, okay, you got the criticism when it happened. You apologize for it. Move on.
We both believe in the rules of journalism. Now, they're not as black and white as they used to be, right? But Jon Morosi is a guy that follows the rules of journalism. Barb's talking about guys are making up false stories and keep their jobs. That's not what this was.
No.
Do I think that's out on Twitter? I 100% think that's out on Twitter from people that have credentials and are considered journalists. He's not one of those guys. He got a little piece of information wrong. He was right. They hadn't signed with. He got information that the guy was on the plane. He wasn't on the plane. Simple.
Let's yell at all the 18-year-olds on social media that put out fake news every single day about the dumbest things, and nobody yells at those people.
There's just so much fake news out
let's
there.
yell at the credible journalists that just sometimes make a mistake.
I like to joke on the show that the number one rule of journalism when I started was don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, right? But it's a joke. Like I have never pulled or known anybody that has pulled the who's the sideline reporter that admitted she was making up reports.
I don't remember.
Oh,
she's on
come on.
Amazon Prime.
It just happened the other day.
Yeah, she's on the Amazon Prime Thursday.
Blonde hair.
I don't remember her name.
Oh, I can't.
Carissa Thompson.
Carissa Thompson.
Is that it?
Yep. She admitted that she was making up coach information when the coach wouldn't talk to her, yada, yada, yada. There are like 10, 15 people more than that. Well, I can go out there and say, there's no way this person has ever done that. Jon Morosi's one.
Well, I think that's it. Is like, this isn't Jon Morosi going out and putting out putting out just making up things.
It's just an error.
It's an error. It is an error in reporting. Got some inaccurate information and put it out there. And again, he apologized. Like, for me, that's enough. He has enough credibility in my mind that he made the mistake. He owned up to it. Okay, like, move on. Like you make, like you said, like, everyone makes mistakes at their jobs sometimes.
We all do.
If you can own up to it and be better for it, then you get another chance in my book. He didn't
hide from it.
He has enough credibility in my head, in my mind, that again, he got the criticism. He apologized. Move on.
He was on MLB Network today talking about Yamamoto, saying he was meeting with the Yankees today. Red Sox and Giants interested for it. Exactly what you're saying. Do I believe that report? I do because of who he is now. And somebody on Twitter said, "Well, this is going to follow him forever. You should be disgraced." Come on, first of all, what are we talking about? We're talking about a baseball signing. Get over it.
I think if you're letting that affect your opinion of Jon Morosi forever, then that's on you.
Yeah,
not on him.
That's a good call. So as for Yamamoto, and he said the Red Sox, first of all, those are deep pockets, right? Yankees, Red Sox, Giants, 3 deep pockets. And so in the chat, Gary was saying the Cubs are going to be out. They're not going to be able to pull in Yamamoto. Met with the Giants yesterday, meeting with the Yankees today. And so I ask you this question. In a hypothetical world, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're the Cubs and you're spending $300 million, because we've heard the number $300 million attached to 2 players. Would you rather have Bellinger for $300 or Yamamoto for $300? Now, Cody and Morosi were saying maybe Bellinger won't cost that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe because of the small sample size for the success after the failure, maybe he won't cost $300 million.
Yeah.
Maybe Yamamoto won't, but I'm just saying, if you could have either guy for $300 million and you're the Cubs, which dream would you rather land here in the next week?
It's to kind of
that's interesting.
Off the Morosi, you mentioned Cody and Morosi when we talked to John Morosi on their show the other day. He actually said that he believes like a lot of teams will have kind of, I forgot the exact wording, but it was kind of like would have trouble giving him $200 million.
Hesitation.
Right? Be hesitant to do that. But it also only takes one to be willing to go that high. For $300 million between Yamamoto and
or
Cody
as long
Bellinger,
as it's the same contract. If it's not
whatever
300, like Gary's
is.
saying, no, neither for 300. Just like some people were out on Ohtani. If the number's 250, and that's the number for either guy. If you can only land one of those fish, who would you rather have?
I think it's Yamamoto for me. I think the pitching is very important for the Cubs because when we looked at it, and don't get me wrong, like the lineup obviously took a hit now that Bellinger's gone. Like just to get Bellinger back, you still have to improve the lineup, and so not having Cody is obviously a hit to the lineup. But when we looked at this rotation a few months ago, right, it didn't look like a playoff caliber rotation. Like Justin Steele, top 5 in Cy Young voting. Like Kyle Hendricks was pitching well. Stroman, who knows what he would have been able to do had they got to the playoffs, right? But it didn't feel like a group that was going to have a ton of success in the playoffs had they made it. Yamamoto, and I get he's never played MLB, right? He's never thrown a pitch in Major League Baseball.
Steele, Yamamoto, Hendricks.
But there's a reason why so many teams are after him. Brendan's broke down the whole all his stuff in a previous episode, and I won't rehash it because honestly I don't.
So did Lance Prostowski for us. He said it might take a little while for him to adjust to the majors.
But I think is he 25 years old? He's a potential ace. Like to have him at the top of your rotation with Justin Steele, I think that is a very good 1-2 punch right there. Would love to have Cody Bellinger back. Obviously, he improves the lineup from where it is now.
I'd like to have both. That's the way I'd like to solve not getting Ohtani,
absolutely.
But I don't know.
Absolutely. But if you're choosing one, and the same contract, you're choosing one of those guys, I think for me, the pitching would be key. And it's kind of like what we talked about last year. When they got Swanson, they put him and Nico up the middle. Like they had at least on paper, really good defender. They have 3 Gold Glovers out there, right? Like Seiya's not, he's no slouch in right field. They might have Pete Armstrong coming up, who could provide Gold Glove caliber defense in center field. Like it should be a defense that is really beneficial to the pitching staff. Like it can really help the pitching staff. So if you're relying on defense and pitching, and I don't know that would it be great to have a lot more offense in this lineup compared to what it was last year, for sure. But it is still a roster that looks as though run prevention may be its calling card. And so if that is, facts, then you obviously want a potential ace versus, I don't know. It's like you said, you'd rather have both.
It's interesting because in some ways, even though one's a pitcher and one's an everyday player, they're similar, right? Yeah. They're not that far off in age. They both have something that might make you hesitate just a little bit. Like Bellinger's downswing before he got better with the Cubs last year, that makes you hesitate a little bit, right? On the other side, Yamamoto, we haven't seen him in the big leagues. We saw him at the World Baseball Classic. He was spectacular. Yeah. But they both, as does almost every free agent, they all give you a little bit of hesitation about something, right? You're always going to hesitate maybe about something. If the number were Dansby Swanson's 7 for 177, boy, I don't know. I would lean opposite you. I would lean the everyday player.
You'd go Bellinger over Yamamoto.
So I think I would go Bellinger because I think at the very worst, if you have Bellinger, he solves your problem at first base and gives you the left-handed bat. And I think that the pitcher thing is maybe more likely to be solved with some of their prospects, Cade Horton, etc., and also maybe more likely to be solved in the trade route, whether that's Glasnow for a year or Bieber, or whoever it might be, I think they have more ways to replace the pitching problem in Stroman than they do figuring out Bellinger. I think if they lose Bellinger, it's going to be real tricky. Now, it doesn't guarantee that if you sign him, he's going to give you what he gave you last year.
Yeah.
But if he were to give you what he gave you last year, he was the most valuable guy in the team.
Yeah. No, yeah. And like I'm saying, like this lineup compared to what it was in September is obviously going to be, it's obviously right now worse off without Cody Bellinger in it.
Mm-hmm.
Adding Cody Bellinger improves it to, where they kind of left off. And I don't know. You mentioned pitching might be taken care of by the prospects. I just don't know how much you can rely on it. Like Ben Brown was a guy that we talked about preseason last year that he'd impact the team at some point this year. He had injuries, he had ineffectiveness, and he never made his debut, right?
Right.
Cade Horton, you never really know what's going to happen this year. We all really believe in Cade Horton, don't get me wrong, but you don't know if he's going to impact this team at all this year. Like you just don't know that for sure. So, and it's something that I've talked about, like prospects are just that, like they're prospects, and you don't know what they'll be able to do when they do get to the major league level. Like I'm looking at Hayden Wesneski, right? His September 2022 was awesome. And then last year he had very real struggles. Like throughout the season, you could see where he had his very real struggles. And he's not as high of a prospect as like Cade Horton is, or even Ben Brown is, but it's tough to want to go into next season relying on your in-house options and just prospects that may or may not have a real impact on your team. That's why I'd go with Yamamoto myself. I mean, you mentioned Bellinger. He obviously has his concerns. There's things we've heard that like teams are concerned with as far as just like his underlying numbers go. Who knows whether the 1 year last year is going to be the norm, or if that's going to be a little bit more, or if he's going to decline. Right? You don't know. So I don't know. You'd love to have both, as you said.
Yeah.
But for me, I think I
wouldn't be upset with either.
I think
Let's
I would
put
lean
it that way.
Yeah, I think I would lean Yamamoto though. Just as far as I think pitching is really important for this team. Obviously offense is too. Don't get me wrong, but I think if I'm choosing between those two, I'm choosing between those two at the same price. Even though I don't think it will be the same price, if I am choosing between those two at the same price, I'd lean, I think, Yamamoto.
Chris with a super chat $4.99 saying, would you guys be interested in Castellanos as a DH candidate, or would you not like the contract because this would be a trade? That's interesting. JD Martinez is another name that's coming up too, because the Dodgers now have Ohtani as their DH. Castellanos, I don't.
It's $20 million a year for Castellanos. I don't know.
Sure. I'm looking for a couple left-handed bats, at least one. And if that's just Bellinger coming back, I still don't think they had enough from the left side. So,
that's if we're talking about DH only, he had a 109 WRC plus.
Well, there's nowhere else to play him.
He was he
would be a DH.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess depending on what you'd have to, I would like to see what like a potential trade package would be for a guy like Nick Castellanos. I don't think the Phillies are shopping him. They're still trying to make a World Series run here.
Yeah.
So I don't think they'd be shopping him, but I don't know. I would like to see before. He's obviously he's beloved in Chicago for like 2 months of play. He had a 109 WRC plus last year, which is down significantly from where he was in 2021. His last year with Cincinnati. He was a one F4 player. I don't know. I would have to see what the Phillies would be asking in return for him before I can say I would. Like, if it's costing you some of your top prospects, I'd say no. Yeah.
Because there's too many. It's too easy to fill the DH role.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, they're talking about how he has to play every day, and they want him at a position, Christopher Morel. But worst case scenario, Morel's your DH, and I'm pretty happy with that. So
yeah, Morel at DH for what he's getting paid versus Castellanos for.
I wouldn't give up a ton to fill the DH role.
Yeah,
unless the DH role were Shohei Ohtani. Different story.
That would be a. I think off the bat, like just right now thinking about it, I'd probably go no. for Castellanos. He'd be great. Obviously, he's a good hitter, and he loves Chicago. People love him, and
I just don't.
I wonder how he
give
do
up more than what you need to bring.
Yeah.
Slick Nick back. Hey guys, it's getting easier for businesses to switch to electric vehicles. That's something we can all get behind. We got to worry about the health of the planet for the well-being of all of us who share it.
Yeah, the electric grid is evolving to meet your cleaner energy needs, and as we all move with confidence toward an electric tomorrow, whether you have one delivery van or a whole fleet of shipping trucks, ComEd can help guide you to make the changes that make sense. I
wish I had a whole fleet of shipping trucks, but I don't at the moment. So if somebody's out there, they own a business, they've got this fleet of shipping trucks that they're, they got trying to save a little money somewhere and help the world. What do they do, Ryan?
Well, they should go to ComEd.com/clean to learn more about the resources, fleet rebates, and infrastructure incentives available to help businesses go electric. If you own a business, don't wait. Start making your plan today to switch to electric vehicles. Good for business, good for the planet, good for all of us. Go to ComEd.com/clean.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan. I was busy reading the live YouTube chat here at CHGO Cubs, and I wasn't paying attention like I should have been. Did you say ComEd.com/clean?
Absolutely. Go now and see how going electric connects us to a better way of doing business and a better future for generations to come.
Very nice. I saw that we posted on our Instagram, I think, that it was 50. Was it Instagram or Twitter? I think it was our Instagram today at CHGO Sports. 50 years ago today, the Cubs traded Ron Santo to the White Sox for Steve Stone. First of all, a lot of names that Cubs fans love in that, right? Mm-hmm. Santo was not happy about going to the White Sox. Steve Stone came here, became a broadcaster, ended up back with the White Sox. It's funny how much big-name broadcasters have actually flipped between the two franchises, with Harry Carey being in the mix and now Len Casper being in the mix. Those are four of the biggest names in Cubs if you were making a Mount Rushmore of Cubs broadcasters, Santo, Stone, and Casper very well could be in that mix. At least two, and one might have and would have the argument to be, still in the mix. It's an interesting. 50 years ago, that's hard to believe it's been that long.
Yeah, no, it's obviously that was well before I was born.
Yeah,
it wasn't even a thought.
Yeah, no, my parents were. Were my parents even born by that? I have no idea. But it's obviously Ron Santo's beloved in Chicago.
Oh no, he dropped the ball.
He dropped the ball. You talk about the Mount Rushmore, and you're looking at it as you got Pat Hughes there, you got Harry Carey there.
Harry Carey's number one on the list, and Brickhouse has to be. Those two have to be on there. So if you want to put Santos, Stone, Casper,
Hughes. Well, I think Pat Hughes. I think would be my third.
Probably third.
And then you have.
But then you have room for Santos, Stone.
You have a solid mix of.
I would say it's Ron Santo over Steve Stone. Lloyd Pettit, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyways, 50 years ago today, who would have thought that ended up being a big broadcasting trade?
I think that's true. Yeah, right. I think that's also like a good thought experiment for like your taste in broadcasters, right? Like, do you like the homerism of Ron Santo or not?
The Santo or Stone one is 100% that. Yeah.
Like Len Casper, like we said, Casper obviously was a great broadcaster for the Cubs. Was he a huge homer? Like, not really. So like, it depends on your taste, I think, in broadcasting too.
You're right. If you could bring one back. Obviously, you can't, but if you could bring one back to be a part of a Cubs broadcast for one day, would you rather hear Ron Santo one more time with Pat Hughes, or would you rather hear Steve Stone doing a game with whoever? Mm-hmm.
It's a good thought experiment.
I honestly would. My personality, I would lead to Ron Santo because Pat and Ron were so funny, and I know what you're saying, like. They were a perfect mix because Pat Hughes wasn't missing any detail, and Ron Santo was missing all of them.
Yeah.
he was missing all the details, but he was the passion and the excitement and the former player, all that stuff put together. So,
yeah, no, that's I'd probably agree that as far as like radio, like growing up for me was Pat and Ron Santo, of course. But I mean, even, Len Casper was around for a while when I kind of really started getting into baseball in my young age on TV. So that's a tough one for me too. Like I may lean Ron, but like Len Casper was obviously a big part of me getting into baseball a long time ago. So
Fernando says he preferred not to listen to Santo. There are definitely people that are like that. They're just
saying,
you know what? I like my baseball serious.
It's your taste. It's your taste in what you want from your broadcasters.
100%. Clark says, guys, Luke and Ryan, I love this show. Watch every day. Wanted to know an opinion on Josh Naylor from the Cleveland Guardians. I was wondering thoughts. I heard he could be traded. What do you think, Ryan? Gotta fix that somehow.
Yeah, that's rumors that we've heard. Josh Naylor is a really intriguing player. I mean, his career, he debuted in 2019. His career, he just keeps kind of going up. Like every year, like look at his WRC+.
How old is
he? He is 26, so still pretty young.
Yeah.
He's barely arbitration eligible this year, so you'd have 3 more years of control for him, I believe, or maybe 2 more, something like that. You look at the last 3 years, he had a 93 WRC plus in 21, 119 in 2022, and then 128 in 2023. I mean, if you watch Josh Naylor, he's a very intense competitor. He's a good hitter, slugger. I mean, he had, he didn't, his power numbers weren't amazing this year. He had 17 home runs, but only in 121 games. I think he would be definitely an intriguing trade candidate. We have heard of rumors like whether it's Shane Bieber or Emmanuel Clase or Josh Naylor or even Jose Ramirez. There's been like rumblings. I don't know.
Well, that's the one Cody's been banging that drum for a long time.
Yeah, I don't know
why they would get rid of him, but if they do, I'd be willing to give up serious prospects.
Yeah, as I'm saying, I don't know how serious that is, but there have been rumors and rumblings about some of these guys. And Josh Naylor, I'm trying to look for his defensive numbers, but if he could fill that hole at first base, like he 5 outs above average last year at first base, and only 760 innings there, but that's a pretty solid sample size for him. I think he would be a good, intriguing option. Gary points out he's probably going to cost a ton to trade for, considering the control any team that trades for him would have. But if it's like a Naylor and Bieber trade or a Naylor and Class A trade, like that's definitely an intriguing option to fill first base, especially if you don't get Cody Bellinger and you need to obviously pivot from that. And you don't, like, if the Cubs don't want to just rely on their internal options like Matt Mervis or whoever, like that would be an interesting piece to at least be gauging the Guardians on what they would want for Josh Naylor.
You're right. I mean, like you said, it all comes down to what you'd have to give back. And we have no privy to knowing exactly what the Guardians would want back for any of those players, whether it's Jose Ramirez, Bieber. We don't know the Bieber yet, and we don't know Naylor. Do I like all 3 of those players fitting in with the Cubs? Any of those 3 players? Yeah, of course I do. I could see how they could all fit in with the Cubs. But I also know I don't want to give away the entire farm system to do it unless one or 2 of those players gives you a long-term superstar solution at a position, right? Or a long enough solution for where a prospect at that level you can easily see coming up and filling that void. Ramirez, to me, would be, if he somehow were on the market, that's a no-brainer, because that you could pencil him in for several years and be like, I don't care what prospect's coming up at that position, go ahead and do it. So to me, it's about what the return would be. Do I like Naylor? Sure. I like Naylor.
Yeah. Okay, so Josh Naylor he's an ARB 3 this year and then ARB 4 in 2025. I guess this is on Spotrac. His estimated salary for this year for arbitration would be $7 million. So it's not cost-wise, not a ton of money on the books. But like you said, like he's a guy with a couple years of control left. He's young. He's improved every season. He'd probably cost a little bit a little bit in prospect capital to actually acquire. So I'm looking at Jose Ramirez. I don't know what his contract is specifically, but let me pull that up.
They just gave him an extension not outrageously long ago.
He's 31 right now. He's under contract through 2028 at just over $20 million a year as far as like AAV luxury tax.
Pretty good player. I mean, He's over 30, but I mean, I like him.
He
would solve third base for several years.
He's a good hitter, obviously, and he solves a position of need. It's just they're both intriguing options, right? Because they both were the Guardians had a disappointing season this last year, but even the year prior, last couple of years, they were a big part of that offense. And we saw Cleveland in the playoffs last season, right? Like how they kind of were just always right in it because you had two big bats and Jose Ramirez and Josh Naylor playing really well. So I would find it pretty hard to believe the Cubs would get both those guys, but either of those two, and then again, Bieber, Class A, or some of these other guys that the Guardians may be shopping, I think that there are solid pieces there that the Cubs could look to acquire to fill their own holes. But it will cost a little bit in prospect capital because some of these guys have control years left, or some of these guys are still at the top of their game, or they're young, or whatever. Like I don't think a guy like Josh Naylor and probably not Jose Ramirez either is going to come cheap from the Guardians.
Hey, one of the keys to building long-term success in your franchise is knowing somehow which prospects to trade away and which ones to hold on to, because they don't all hit, and you hope that you don't trade away the ones that do unless you're getting something back of equal value, and that's one of the trickiest parts about being a GM. So, Jed Hoyer, it's your move. By the way, if we have breaking news today, we'll just go home and we'll do another breaking news podcast if we have to. And you can always find out what's going on by going to allchgo.com and reading Ryan's articles. And you can do that, especially if you're a diehard.
I thank you
for everything.
Thank you for that plug. We got to tell you to become a CHGO diehard, and so whether you're in our Discord, like I know Gary, our friend Shane is in there a lot. Whether you're in the Discord, that's where if I do a mailbag and you want your questions asked, I ask in the Discord for mailbag questions. I post to the site, available for only diehard members. So if you have questions you want it answered by me or whoever, or if you want to do it with the Bears guys or the Bulls guys or whoever it is, you gotta become a diehard to do it. We got premium written content for members at allchgo.com, 20% off events actually. So whether that's the tailgates this past season, whatever it is, you get 20% off events. Dope merch for all teams. Did you see the what would have been the
Shohei shirt,
the shirt that would
Showtime
that would have been released had the Cubs made a big move like that. Still great, but we still have a lot of other dope merch on our website to go look at. And you actually get a free shirt when you become a member, so go do that. And then I already mentioned the members-only Discord, what we call the CHGO Lounge. A lot of good discourse in the Cubs channel and the Bears channel. They got sports betting channel in there. If you're like a marathon runner or just fitness, they have a fitness channel. So our Discord, we got a lot of people in there, and they're always talking in there, always chatting. I like to go kind of scroll through and just kind of gauge what our Discord members are thinking or what the kind of general mindset is in that Discord. So that's always fun, but you get all of that when you become a CHGO diehard. So go ahead and do that today.
We're still looking for, see if we can get done the velour robe for the members in the Discord. We'd all like to sit around in the Discord in our velour robes with a pipe that doesn't have anything in it and just kind of take the pipe out when we have some comment.
Yeah, you've been kind of banging the drum for that.
Well, I'm waiting until we get the velour robe. Hey, are you in the market for a new vehicle? If you are, then we have some great news for you. Our partner, Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Fox Lake, is making room on their lot for incoming 2024 vehicles. And you know what that means. You'll be able to shop incredible savings on every new vehicle in stock during their limited time wrap up the year savings sale event. For a limited time, get up to 15% off on a new 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee with dealer's discount. At Ray's CDJR, you're always able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories and drive home with more money in your pocket than you'd expect thanks to Ray's Price Promise. Don't miss out. Shop great deals all month long and save big because Ray's CDJR makes buying a new vehicle more affordable than ever. And that's not all. Just for listening, you can get a free oil change when you mention CHGO at the service center or mention CHGO when you book online at rayscdgr/service. Hurry in. You must book before December 31st, 2023. So if you're in the market for a new vehicle, then you have to check out our team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram because they're the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdgr.com, serving the community since 1963. The biggest miracle of my life happened today. The Kennedy was open, every lane was open, and I thought if I just had a new vehicle
Christmas
from Ray
early.
CDGR, man, would I be styling on the highway today.
Absolutely.
Instead, my banged up, scratched vehicle was going down the highway, but I was still happy because there was no traffic.
That was
what a gift.
When they did that, it was
for a couple months.
Yeah, until spring.
Until it snows.
Real quick, add on to the Jose Ramirez. Someone pointed out in the chat. I didn't see who it was. He does have a full no trade clause from the Guardians.
You don't think he wants out of Cleveland?
Well, that's the problem. Is
I don't know anybody that went to Cleveland on vacation.
If he does or doesn't, like that's obviously an obstacle that would have to be solved before the Cubs could even acquire him. So that could maybe be another thing, another thing blocking their path from potentially trading for someone like Jose Ramirez. Again, he's obviously a really good player. He's been a really good player for a number of years with Cleveland, but no trade clause means it's up to him if you want to move.
Very nice. Thanks to everybody that was in the live YouTube chat. Please hit the thumbs up button on the way out. We appreciate that. Make sure you're back here at 1:20 tomorrow. We believe Cody Del Mendo will be in here with his hot takes and his new Jordans that he's been showing off on the Twitters and the Instagram and all those things. And hopefully the Cubs will have a brand new, shiny baseball player for us to talk about by then. If not, we'll throw around some more ideas tomorrow at 1:20. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. We're back here live, 1:20, Monday through Thursday. Friday it's taped, but it's also at 1:20. Until then, fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.